Let's get right into it. When your spouse is dealing with something like AMD or glaucoma, it's so easy for your support to start feeling, well, a lot like supervision. What we're going to do here is lay out a playbook to help you support the person you love without damaging the partnership you've built.
And this right here, this is the heart of the problem. It happens in that tiny moment when your fear speaks louder than your respect. It's not because you don't love them, of course you do. It's just a breakdown in how you're trying to help.
You know that feeling, right? You offer a hand, just trying to be helpful, and you're met with this wall of frustration. It feels like your help is being taken as a criticism. If that sounds familiar, trust me, you are not alone. We're about to unpack exactly why that happens and what you can do about it.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to name the problem, the accidental manager. Then we'll dive into 3 really powerful solutions to fix it, and we'll wrap up with a simple habit to make sure all these positive changes actually stick.
So what do we even mean by accidental manager? Well, it's that moment when your good intentions start chipping away at your partner's independence. You know, it's when you find yourself narrating their steps, correcting how they do something, or even speaking for them in a restaurant.
This slide shows the painful gap between what you mean and what they hear. You think you're saying, I care about you. I want to keep you safe. But for your partner, the message that lands is often, I don't trust you anymore. You can't do this. It's like you're both watching the same scene with totally different subtitles. Now, this is a really important way to reframe this. This whole parent vibe thing, it's not a character flaw. You're not a bad person for doing it. It's actually your own fear. Your fear of them falling, of them making a mistake, and that fear is dressing up in a costume called efficiency. It's trying to manage away the risk, but in the process, it's accidentally managing away their sense of self.
Okay, so how do we start to fix this? Well, our first tool is all about building a bridge over that communication gap, and we do it by replacing our assumptions with one simple thing: permission.
This little 2-sentence script, it's an absolute game changer. The first question stops you from just jumping in. It respects that they might just need a minute to figure it out themselves. And the second question, if they do want help, turns you from a rescuer into a resource. It's a menu of options, not a takeover. This simple shift gives the power and the choice right back to them.
And to make this even easier, you can create your own private language for help. The source material mentioned is a great story of a couple whose signal was just a single tap on the elbow. Not a grab, not a push, just a quiet little tap that says, okay, I'm ready for some help now. Think of how many small public frustrations that one little signal could prevent.
Okay, our next big idea is to move from reacting to being proactive. So, instead of being the constant narrator of your partner's life, what if you could change the environment so it just didn't need as much narration?
And here's why this is so important. Systems are neutral, but reminders always feel personal. You see, a brighter light in the kitchen doesn't have an opinion. A designated hook for the keys doesn't nag. When you build a predictable, supportive environment together, you eliminate the need for that constant running commentary that can feel like a nonstop audit of their every move.
Let's look at some really practical language swaps. Everything in that left column is a command, an interruption, or a judgment. But look at the right column. It's all questions and options. Be careful is just a vague alarm bell, but heads up, stares ahead, armor space. Now that's teamwork. It gives information, and then it offers a choice.
Okay, think of this as a little self-check tool. Be honest with yourself for a second. Where are you living most days? Are you in that green partner mode, asking first and designing solutions together? Or are you drifting into the yellow or even the red zone, where unasked for takeovers are becoming the norm? The goal here isn't to be perfect. It's just to be aware, so you can catch yourself when you start to drift.
All right, let's tackle the really big one, the conversation about the car keys. This is almost never just about driving, is it? It's all tangled up with identity, with freedom, with independence. It's heavy.
This is the question that so many couples get stuck on. The stakes just feel so incredibly high. But there is a way to have this conversation that protects everyone's safety and everyone's dignity. Here is the crucial mindset shift you have to make. This conversation is not about you judging their driving ability. It's about the two of you, as a team, protecting your shared future from a serious risk. The whole frame changes from, you're not a good driver anymore, to, okay, how do we, together, handle this new challenge? So let's look at a story. There's a couple, and they're fighting in a parking lot.
He's saying, I'm fine to drive, but what she hears is your fear doesn't matter. And she's saying, I'm scared for you to drive, but what he hears is you're incompetent. See? They're not really fighting about the car. They're fighting about everything the car represents.
So what did they do? They created what they called a treaty. And its first rule was just brilliant. No decisions when emotions are running high. Simple as that. They agreed they would only talk about driving after dinner, when they were both calm, and, this is key, with a timer set. They controlled the environment for the conversation so it couldn't explode.
Now, their secret weapon was something they called a neutral trigger. This is a rule they wrote down together ahead of time. So now it's not one spouse policing the other, it's the couple simply following the plan they already agreed on. This takes all the personal blame out of it. The rule makes the decision, not the husband or the wife.
Okay, so you've got all these great new tools and these new ways of thinking, but how do you make sure you don't just slide back into the old, comfortable habits? Well, you do it by creating a really simple, repeatable ritual.
This is not some long, drawn-out therapy session. No. This is a 12-minute tactical check-in. The timer's your best friend here. You start with what went well, then you both get to say what was annoying. Then you pick just one small thing to fix, and you always end by celebrating a win that has nothing to do with health. It's fast, it's focused, and it works.
And this is really why it's so important. This little weekly meeting stops small annoyances from growing into huge resentments. It turns frustration into a design problem you can solve together. And it makes sure you're always working on the challenges as a team, keeping your spouse a partner, not a project. And that brings us right back to where we started. That impulse to grab, to direct, to control. It almost always comes from a place of love that is absolutely terrified. Recognizing that fear in yourself is the first huge step. The second step is choosing to respond with partnership instead of just trying to take over.
So, I'm going to leave you with a challenge for the week ahead. Can you think of one specific time where you're going to use that permission first rule and offer a menu of help? And, just as important, can you think of one time where you will feel that fear bubble up and you'll consciously choose to take a breath and give your partner the gift of space?